I'm not so sure if from a human-centered perspective, we will have this big breakthrough, but I expect rather a gradual improvement and a gradual growth and change in our working practices. And this change will go gradually because it's very deeply rooted in culture and the way we work with each other and the way how we interact.
Welcome to a brand new episode of our podcast, Human and AI, Mind, Machines, and the Gradient Descent.
Thanks for tuning in to our geeky podcast to discuss the fascinating field of AI and machine learning, corporate craziness, passion for technology, and the role of humans. We are Uli and Aberi, your hosts for this episode. And for our session today, we reached out to a genius mind outside of the corporate craziness. That's how we like to call it. So outside of the Siemens cosmos. And we thought, why not put a little twist on our podcast and maybe bring in an academic perspective? So today we're very keen to learn about what it means to develop AI systems that put people at the very core. And we'll learn about how design thinking can be used in the AI space, what role ChatGPT plays for educators and researchers, and why it is so hard to put AI into productive use. But most importantly, we'll get to know him better and learn about his story. And let me introduce you to Professor Dr. Benjamin van Giffen, who's our genius mind on the show today. He is an assistant professor for information management, and he's also the head of management at the AI lab at the University St Gallen. Benjamin is passionate about human-centered innovation, so a real design thinking expert, I'd say. He's curious about business-grade AI and AI-enabled digital innovation, whilst building a network of trusted partners focusing on scaling value-driven AI. And besides all of this, he also teaches and supervises different students in impact-oriented research. And we can't wait to get to know Benjamin better and learn more about him, his research, and his passion. So, Benjamin, it's fantastic to have you on the show. And I'd suggest we start off with something to get to know you a little better. So maybe in brief, can you tell us who you are, what do you do, and what actually first sparked your interest in the field of AI?
Yeah, thank you very much, Aberi and Uli, for the kind introduction. And thank you very much for having me on your show. My name is Benjamin. I work in St Gallen, and I'm quite excited about the topic that we can speak about today. As you mentioned, I'm an academic, and therefore I'm quite research focused, and my work focuses on that key question, on how companies can generate value with artificial intelligence. So I'm not a magician, I'm not a algorithm wrangler or so. I really focus on the managerial concepts that help organizations to reap value of artificial intelligence to generate that. And I got excited about AI already during my PhD a couple of years ago when I studied how large digital platform providers like Facebook and eBay and Amazon and so on leverage the data that consumers generate to build outstanding customer experience that really outperform many of the things that we had before. And privately, of course, when I had several aha moments, the first time I could just photograph my credit card and all the information on it was immediately usable in an app, and many other moments where I thought, wow, that's an incredible technology, and I think it's really worth to dive deeper into that. Today, I think AI offers many new opportunities to create value. But at the same time, I think we need to manage it responsibly. We need to manage it well. And with this, I mean to manage it professionally. And this is what I'm focusing on.
Oh, pretty dope. Benjamin, great to have you actually, right? It's good. Finally, we have you on the show, right? It took a bit of a while, but it's, you're absolutely right? It's somehow it seems to be that AI is invisible now, right? Right under our noses, right? Everywhere pops up AI and, processes, and you shed a light a bit of the consumer tech already. What do you see? So we're called somehow human and AI, right? What would you say is the relationship between the human interface and the AI interface technology-wise?
I think it's a wonderful question. First of all, artificial intelligence is probably one of the most controversially discussed technology that we have. Some admire it, some hate it, or some fear it, but very few people don't have an opinion about artificial intelligence. And in my work with executives and with business and data science expert, I see every day how each person has a very different understanding of what AI is and what it can contribute to a company or what it offers. With controversial, I mean the potential for misinformation is high, right? People can really get it wrong easily. At the same time, you can get excited about the technology also very fast. And I think that the human and AI aspect, both aspects, is this intersection is the most important intersection to look at. I think the potential for misinformation is high. And at the same time, especially when you're an engineer or a data scientist, it's very easy to get excited about the technology. So human and AI, both aspects, create a very important intersection. And I think we can only realize the value promise of AI when we leverage AI strengths to meet user needs. And this is where I see the connection between human and AI. We need to think about the fantastic ways by which AI can help us to augment the capabilities that humans have to solve relevant problems or to realize entirely new ways of value creation. And while doing that, we need to account for the human and social context. We really need to make sure that the context, the social context in which we deploy this technology is recognizing and appreciative of the technology. To do that, for example, we have developed a unique program, corporate innovation program at University of St Gallen, which we call Design Thinking for AI. And here's exactly where we try to combine that, the strengths of design thinking, user-centered research, user-centered design for generating data in AI innovations so that we can solve real challenges of humans or of companies and solve them by meeting at the intersection of AI strengths and user needs.
Right, you touched already. So as a geek, right, I imagine, right, research and academia and teaching in AI and machine learning. Let's talk about neural nets or talking about machine learning or maybe robotics and so on, right, or knowledge representations. But you're coming from a different twist, and that's kind of interesting, right? A bit of the design thinking, and you call it also design thinking for AI, right? What the hell is design thinking for those outside, right? The corporates which may have heard for the first time. And what does this idea and effects are contributing to the context of design thinking for AI? Can you give it a bit of a deep dive in it?
Yes, absolutely. Design thinking is an innovation method that puts the human and her needs into the center and at the starting point for generating innovations. So that means when you are leveraging design thinking method for an AI innovation, you don't start with, we need AI to solve this or that problem. Instead, you spend a good amount of time with users, with your target user group, customers or employees, to learn about their problem world, to create empathy with their problem world, to really understand the many, many whys that drive their behaviors and their decisions. And only once you have understood this as a foundation, you start to think about ways that can help address the challenges that are emerging in personal context or company context, of course. And the role of AI here comes then in when you think about the systems and the data that is occurring in the problem space, that is available in the problem space of users. And then when it comes more to the solution part, developing solutions through creative ways, having the small little nudges and also tools and approaches that help you to think about ways how AI can be part of the solution or can be the solution to these human problems.
Thank you very much, Benjamin, for that very elaborate explanation of design thinking and the relation to AI. What I often come across when like reading about AI is like, for example, also the World Economic Forum, they had a report that they brought out where they said, like, in the future, one of the major human skills will be creativity. So creativity is something technology or AI cannot really replace. But would you agree with that? And where do you see the relationship between AI and human creativity evolving in the coming years?
Yeah. Thank you very much. It's another great question. First of all, I don't think that we need to look very far into a distant future that we cannot imagine to understand the importance of that relationship. We don't need to look very far. In fact, if you looked at the most recent developments, I mean, the last 1 or 2 years, AI-enabled tools like DALL-E for image generation or ChatGPT as a very powerful conversational agent that can write texts for you. Yeah? They have acquired over 1 million users in a couple of days. And there are generative tools that support you in your writing, right? So it's very easy to see already today how these tools can augment our capabilities as humans or stimulate our intuition and creativity. So I see this as a very close and fruitful relationship. Of course, it comes with a dark side. When you think about how a DALL-E model is trained, there is some data that has been used for training that data. So there is some intellectual property involved as well, from which patterns are extracted through machine learning and based on which such creative images are generated. And this applies to text as well. And this offers a whole new set of challenges as well. But in general, the relationship between human creativity and AI is very big, and it offers also great potentials.
Yeah, you mentioned already ChatGPT, right? It's going to the roof, actually, right? Currently, you don't, every LinkedIn post I see all on Twitter, everybody's like, whoa, how excited, how awesome! Hey, I've used it with these application, right? And there's a lot of things that the maturity and I think the smartness of AI applications can be seen on the NLP and the natural language processing side. So, but this has also maybe application and implications on the academic context, right? There's news about even in local newspapers where teachers suddenly write like, how do we deal now with our students? They can build up their research and their teaching aspects in there, maybe for both sides, right? For students as well as for the academia folks. How do you see that? Is that a danger that GPT-3 writes all the thesis now, and your next PhD student may has just prompted an efficient search in that?
Mm-hmm. I think this is really funny. What we can see on LinkedIn, how much is posted, everybody's posting, and no, I am not. I'm not fearing this. In fact, we cannot ask our students not to have a look at these tools or not to use these tools just because as professors or as teachers, this drives us out of our comfort zone. And of course, there is a natural tendency to be defensive on that point and say, well, you might not use that for writing your thesis. And I'm sure, we don't have governance or regulations around that, but this will emerge soon, I'm sure. And I'm afraid that these might be quite conservative when it comes to technology use. But in general, I think that the quality of output that people can generate will increase using these tools. And as teachers, we need to find ways that help our students, but also to help ourselves to enhance the quality of stuff that we can create.
Mm-hmm. So ChatGPT is the next Wikipedia, right? Somehow the next level interaction of making a decent grammar in outside of the WhatsApp, language syntax.
It is so much more efficient asking GPT-3 for an answer than looking as opposed to as compared to Wikipedia. That how can you justify not to use the tool? You cannot afford that in a digitized, extremely fast and quite competitive digital space.
So you would actually welcome your students using that, and it's not cheating in a way. When if I use it to support me prepare my paper or prepare my next presentation.
I would not have this black and white distinction and to encourage people to use that. But that's what I mean is I think there will be some governance, maybe not regulations, but some governance is likely to emerge on what is acceptable use and what not. And I would be very reluctant to forbid it. And I would expect students to really draw on the resources that they can have to enhance the quality. But to be honest, if you are doing a good job as a teacher in supervising thesis, you have, as I have here on my desk, absolutely unique pieces of great work. And you're developing that together with your students to a good extent. You work with your students on a regular basis, and you have a very good understanding of the capabilities of a student. I don't see my job as somebody examining the intellectual capacity of the students, but rather helping them on a growth trajectory. And in St. Gallen, we have a great students with a fantastic growth trajectory, and trying to elevating them to a high level of intellectual independence, right? So what GPT is giving out as input, it might rather stimulate their thinking because these students can write, right?
I also see a massive potential actually in there, that it can also like spark creativity or different thoughts, or give you different impulses that like in the end you as the human have to combine that with your previous knowledge to create something new. But like it can just like push your thoughts into a direction where you maybe haven't thought about before. So we talked briefly now about ChatGPT, but are there any more like exciting developments in the field of AI that you're maybe currently working on or following closely that you would like to share here?
Yes, of course. I think there are tremendous opportunities emerging, and they are not only coming from the technology side. With exciting developments, of course, there are these ChatGPT 3 coming from OpenAI, companies that are heavily funded, have the best developers, data scientists in the world. They have access to resources that very, very few organizations have. And of course, we will see some of these moonshots of these innovations that are built on basically unlimited amount of resources. What I find quite exciting as a researcher, a management researcher in that space, is how organizations can transform drawing on these opportunities. So what I'm excited about is probably not what every data scientist might be excited about, but what I'm excited about is how organizations now innovate their processes and operations to run AI professionally, to create value, and also how to move more towards the scaled deployment in organizations. I think this is very exciting for me, and I think it's also highly relevant for organizations because firms do not necessarily benefit immediately from a ChatGPT innovation. In fact, they will likely have to pay for the use of their API. But building the capability internally is highly important also to secure the competitiveness of the business for many organizations. The other part that I find very exciting is that we call it the democratization of AI for business transformation. How can we enable business people and finding new ways to enable business experts, domain experts, and finding strategies to make AI to them more appealing? So not considering the technology as something for an intellectual elite, for mathematicians, physicists, machine learning researchers, but how can we make AI more relevant and appealing for broader audiences beyond the data science experts? And by the way, Siemens is a great example of how this is happening. And you probably know many more examples where this has been realized very nicely. The third part I find interesting is the scaling. How organization can advance from organic growth of individual or tactical AI use cases to the broader adoption, to the systematic adoption of AI to advance their business transformation. And I know this is not the placative technological advancement, the breakthrough, but this can be the breakthrough for organizations in their transitioning towards an AI-driven future.
You shared already that that it's sometimes very challenging of businesses and organizations integrating AI, right?
Yeah.
In their operations. Can you share a bit of best practice? How do you do that? What's the role of ethics? Is that a thing? Do you hear that already from client engagement? How do you make that sustainable? Actually integrated, right? What kind of operation model is? How do you work that? Out. What do you hear from all the clients?
Yeah. Well, again, I think that the human-centered approach goes a long way. And with human-centered approach, I mean really respecting and integrating the different responsibilities and skills and capabilities that the various stakeholders have. So domain experts, business domain experts typically can contribute business and problem understanding. They have quite a good sensitivity for the ethical aspects and what it means to operate a business sustainably. That's very much in the realm of domain experts, business experts. Then we have data scientists who build AI models and research about adequate methods. They're very much in statistical optimization, stochastical optimization. And then we have IT professionals who provide software tools and platforms. So when you ask me, how can organizations adopt AI effectively? My answer is that we need to bring these roles intelligently together. We need to find ways in improving the collaboration between domain experts, data scientists, and IT professionals. And I think this is where the biggest gain is to expect.
And do you also see a great potential, like if we use this approach and bring in different experts with different backgrounds, that this way we can also use AI in a way that is sustainable, like ecologically, but also economically for the future?
I think that's the only way we can sustainably use artificial intelligence. And sustainability here can have two different perspectives. Using AI sustainably means that I do not just throw resources into the development of machine learning models that never go into production. That's the sustainable use of resources in the development and use of AI systems. And then we have AI for sustainability. That means we build applications and that use AI and other digital technologies to improve the sustainability of an organization. And I think this can only be achieved through the collaboration of these three, of domain experts, data scientists, and IT professionals.
Yeah, so joining forces and bringing the expertise to the table to generate or create something greater. What I was wondering a lot is because when you're in the field of AI, we are often in the beginning of that innovation funnel. So there's a lot of concept creation, there's a lot of ideation, brainstorming, the design thinking concept phases. And what we tend to do is to create a lot of prototypes, a lot of proof of concepts. Maybe we have an MVP, but I feel like there seems to be a big hurdle when it comes to really bringing AI innovations to production, going live with them. So where do you see the greatest challenges in the practical implementation of AI, and what makes it so hard and so difficult to really successfully integrate AI?
I think this is the key challenge of organizations right now in implementing AI, moving into real deployable, large-scale, valuable AI applications. Well, the most pressing challenge is, I think, first of all, onboarding business experts, onboarding domain experts into the AI journey, because AI systems have probabilistic outcomes. This changes entirely the logic of IT systems versus AI-enabled systems. We do not have a deterministic logic anymore, but we have systems that make predictions in many cases, and these predictions are statistically good, but not always correct. So that means we also need to embed these technologies in respective industrial or business contexts. And this is something where the onboarding and the ownership of business experts needs to be elevated. How do we do it? Through proper ways of collaboration. And that means that we do not just have the final idea, as you mentioned, nicely built, and then we try to get it to deployed or into production. But instead, we need to find ways to have very early on business expertise in the development. I'm not saying that the data scientists are not doing that, but we have research showing 20 different problems that are exactly at that spot. Communication is not so, people have different perspectives, different forms of communications, different ways of thinking, lack of communication from one side to the other, business experts explaining the business problem, data scientists explaining the data solution, and so on. I don't want to be too stereotypical here, but this is a very critical collaboration, and I think we need to get much better in doing so. The second point, pressing challenges, is scalable use cases. It's simple, not so difficult, to find islands of use cases that can be implemented, but we need to identify scalable AI use cases in robust ways and not focus too much on the small low-hanging fruits, which is very likely in a financial-driven organization. So show me the low-hanging fruits and try to realize that, but this is not the right approach. We need to have better scaling approaches. And lastly then, and this goes hand in hand with this value orientation, managing a portfolio of valuable AI products effectively and reinforcing. That means it's a very big difference if you have 15 isolated AI use cases or if you have a coherent portfolio of how these AI use cases or AI products are interdependently reinforcing and improving, for example, a customer experience, an employee experience, or a business process. So having a coherent portfolio that is at the core of companies' value creation, that is, I think, quite a pressing challenge.
Yeah, super nice, actually. So you talked already about collaboration, right? And collaboration is also, needed in terms of the collaboration between industry and academia, right? To advance the field, also in human-centered innovation and AI-enabled innovation. How do you see that? What's, how do we, can strengthen the collaboration in working together and advancing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And as you know, at the University of St Gallen, we are very closely working with industry. So this is a topic I have that has accompanied me for the last 8 years, and where I see great opportunities. And I think these are also very important for both industry and academia. But before speaking about how do we do it, I would like to first think about what are the strengths in such a partnership. Industry partners and industry companies have relevant problems that are valuable to solve for a customer or for a user, right? And industry companies have plenty of them. They have quite complex contexts and problems that need to be solved. And academics or academia typically has theory and concepts that have been evolved over many years. Sometimes they are top-notch, sometimes they are rather saturated, but these concepts can help significantly to structure and solve problems, to enhance consistency, to ask the right questions, and also to create a shared understanding. So I have personally benefited a lot from this industry-academia collaboration over the last years, and there are many ways to collaborate. I think this has changed also significantly over the last 20 years. Universities today are very eager and open to work with industry, and I also think that industrial professionals are more interested in working with university. So some ways of doing that can be shared or joint research projects or shared research partnerships. For example, PhDs that spend 50% of their time in the company and 50% of their time at the university in the research team, so that you have, in German we call it Transfer über Köpfe, transfer through the heads that are...
It can't be more German, can't be more German.
Yeah. But you really try to, create this diffusion of knowledge in between these different worlds as effectively as possible. And this is, of course, a larger commitment. On the other hand, we have these innovation programs like, for example, our design thinking for AI that helps firms to explore such potentials with students. So it really depends a bit on who you want to bring together, how complex the problem is. But in general, I would absolutely underline to underline that. And maybe one more thing: universities have typically a huge network or at least at University of St Gallen, we have a huge network, and that means that we can easily see the connections in different organizations, right? And see parallels and help bring people together. And this is sometimes a bit difficult when you hire consultants, or when you have industry competition. You don't have that. You can exclude that very much. Why should an industrial manufacturing company not learn from a Swiss bank, or vice versa?
Benjamin, about that, have you actually talked to your, or like, have you received any feedback from your students if they actually prefer that way, like if that you are so close to the industry and maybe work on a real world example in the course of your studies in a program? Like, do you have any feedback or comments how your students, but maybe also the industry sees that collaboration?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Our innovation ecosystem in the program has a corporate liaison, an industry partner. We have the target group for whom an innovation is created. We have coaches. So there are four coaches and professors in the class for 30 students. So it's quite a high ratio. And then you have the professors giving the academic input on the method. And for students, it's a learning experience. It's quite an innovative way of teaching when you provide the means. So we have several principles. Students have ownership. They have a budget. They manage the project by themselves. They manage the relationship with the partner themselves. But they are coached in the program to make sure that they can go through a real learning curve in their team and as individuals. We have reflections every now and then to make sure that the team is developing well, and we address, of course, issues that come up as proactive as possible with the team or the team itself. So this is very much about enablement, and the industry and the real world problem of a company gives it so much more relevance. I remember a student with glowing eyes standing there, but they need our help. And this was the moment where I really felt, okay, we have achieved what we wanted with this program. This level of ownership is fantastic. And of course, for industry partners, it's quite refreshing to work with 5, 6 high potential students who are eager to run and who are creating an innovation in just 3 months. It is 2 weeks ago that the vice president of a large company has invited our student team to come to a leadership conference and show what they have created in 3 months' time and why this cannot be done in a huge organization like ours. So that makes me quite proud, but at the same time, it's quite well received from a student perspective as well as from an industry perspective, because it's this win-win situation, because the university also wins through this, because the ties between university and industry are improved to this.
It's a very holistic approach, and it sounds very appealing. So if I plan to do my master's, another one, then I will consider St. Gallen for sure.
You are happy to join.
And with that, I would like to ask you about a little outlook. So we've talked a lot about the technology on the one hand, but also we had a strong focus on the human, on the user. How do you see that, like, innovation in that field really evolving in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe? Where do you see like the next big breakthrough or advance? That's a difficult one.
That's a difficult one. And if I think a bit about it, I think we come to a point where companies and people start to realize that AI is not magic, and that it is a tool or a capability that needs to be built. I'm not so sure if, from a human-centered perspective, we will have this big breakthrough, but I expect rather a gradual improvement and a gradual growth and change in our working practices. The way we innovate AI systems and also the way we use AI in our working practices. And this change will go gradually because it's very deeply rooted in culture and the way we work with each other and the way how we interact.
Yeah, nice. So if you then explore it a bit in the future, what kind of skills would you enforce on or recommend to students, right? What kind of skills and qualifications are in this space needed?
I think the skills that you need today, as compared to 20 years ago, are different. They're much more focusing on the digital, and there will, for students as of today, I would recommend to for sure gain some programming experience to understand, for example, the concept of computational thinking, so that you can leverage computers and software for your thinking and for building and achieving something. It certainly makes sense to get at least a foundational understanding of artificial intelligence, what it means to train AI models, and also how traditional software programming is different from training AI models. I think you should develop a versatility of skills in a variety of digital tools. For example, the one that we have mentioned, but also the many, many tools for prototyping. If this, not everything needs to perfectly enable the back end, but really need to understand how you can prototype, test with customers. And then, of course, thinking and writing. This sounds so fundamental, but this helps you in sharpening your thinking and your conceptual clarity when you want to achieve something. It helps you to really understand what you're doing and to improve your ability to reflect on the results that you've generated.
Those are very important skills. And since you already just started to provide recommendations, we also wanted to ask you, maybe if you look back to the time when you were a student or when you had just started to be a professor, is there any advice that you would like to share here that maybe you would have loved to hear back in the days? So maybe someone who's like really purpose driven and wants to change something and maybe needs like that extra push. What would you tell that person?
Well, this can be very fundamental. I would encourage students today to build something early on. With building something, I mean something digital, something scalable. Try things out, go step by step, and be open to learn something new. But do this with a permission to fail. Give yourself a permission to fail and to try out new things. The traditional optimization of the CV and all the different boxes that you are asked to go in are not so relevant. It's more important to learn something, to create a valuable skill, and to improve that. And the best teacher is failure and the reflection you have about it. I wrote quite a good quote this week, which said, the difference between what you have right now and where you want to go is skill. Nothing, if you're a talented young person, nothing in this world is really holding you back to achieve what you want. You can learn so many things, and a lot of it is available for free. We have highly accessible tools and methods and courses, and I'd really encourage you to, go shoot for the moon.
Beautiful. What an advice. That's like, Uli, actually, we should end here.
Just stop. Stop the recording now, right? Roll the tape.
Everything was said.
Roll the credentials now.
but Benjamin, we can't skip the last part because it's our...
No, even in 2023, there will be always the authentic autocomplete coming in.
Yeah, our little trademark. We want to play our final game with you. But first of all, thanks so much for the time, for the passion, and for all the insights you've shared. We've learned a lot today. And for the closing, we would like to play our little game with you. And for that, I would like to give you a couple of sentence starters and would like you to finish them. So Benjamin, are you ready for the final challenge?
Okay, I'm ready.
You're ready. So AI is
an incredible opportunity for humans and companies to shape the future of our society.
That's bold enough, right? I guess.
Yeah, that's bold. The University of St Gallen is?
It's a great place for innovation, where sometimes things are possible that are not possible somewhere else.
Oh,
beautiful.
That's cool. If someone says this about a corporate or some institute, that's really nice, is it?
Yeah.
That sounds really flourishing. Yeah.
Having a growth mindset means?
stay curious and learn every day.
Agreed. Happiness is
the little things you experience every day.
Yeah, like this podcast, right?
Absolutely.
And last but not least, if I could invent one rule for everyone in the world to follow, it would be
never stop learning.
Here we go. That's the final, right? Benjamin, so thank you so much for being that open, passionate, and very, very shareable and approachable, actually, in, getting a bit of a glimpse how you operate also with students and interact with students. So we really, really appreciate your time in this case.
Aubrey and Uli, thank you very much for having me. It was my pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, and folks out there, act with Benjamin on LinkedIn, right? Google him up, right? Or on the webpage, apply, on his PhDs or as a graduate, right? Much of an awesome dude, actually. And obviously comment on our posts, right? What we can improve and make better. And until the next podcast, stay bold, committed, and open-minded. And we hear us definitely at the next Siemens AI Lab podcast. Cheers.